Welcome back to the show, ladies and gentlemen. My guest right now has been seen in countless fashion and style magazines, and of course you know her from her roles in Hugo, Carrie, the Kick-Ass franchise, and probably her most infamous role as that of the newspaper girl in The Muppets Most Wanted.
Oh my gosh.
She is the star of the new movie, The Fifth Wave, which opens January 22nd. Hello, Chloe Grace Moretz. How are you? Just making sure I got the whole name in there. Because 3 names, sometimes you're speaking too fast or not thinking straight that you'll blur it all together and then you sound like an idiot.
It's true.
And it's not good for radio.
You didn't sound like an idiot. So
Thank you. Well, there's enough time to change your mind on that.
Don't worry, there's still time.
How are you?
Very well, very well. I'm doing great. I'm just cold outside.
Right. New York City's freezing.
It's 10 degrees.
Winter just kicked in. If you were here last week or so around Christmas time, it was 72. Yep, and now it's 6.
Now it's 6.
You're here for your brand new movie, Fifth Wave. I got a chance to watch everything, and it's an amazing movie. It's not just a sci-fi movie, but there's elements of other classic sci-fi films that are blended into this story here. I saw some stuff that was you get a bit of a Independence Day feel
for sure
with the alien invasion, a little bit of Fallen Skies, if you know that, the Steven Spielberg project, a little bit of They Live. It's not your typical alien movie. Oh, it has a little bit of V, too. You familiar with V?
It does have a little bit of V.
Okay.
Yeah, it does. Elements of.
Right. So tell us about Fifth Wave here. It's obviously alien invasion. What's going on?
Well, basically, the way I look at it is it's about a young woman, Cassie Sullivan, who is your typical, 17-year-old girl who isn't extraordinary at anything. She's your typical ordinary teenage girl. She doesn't have the hottest guy in school. She's not educationally, in honor roll. She's not a sports star. She's just average. And then one day she wakes up, modern day time, right now, as if it was tomorrow, and there's an alien spaceship above her head. And her entire world is dismantled. And following the arrival of the spaceship, there are 5 waves of an alien attack that completely demolish the world.
Right.
Tsunamis, earthquakes, snipers. A virus that kills a lot of people. And then, the question is, what is the fifth wave? And throughout the series of waves, it knocks us back into this almost prehistoric, primal, caveman form of living. We lose all touch with our family members. They're pulled away from us in various ways. It ends up being just my brother and I, and then my brother's taken away from me. And I have to make the decision as to whether, to wallow and kind of sit there in self-pity or to pick myself up and kind of become this primal human being that we used to be in a lot of ways.
Right.
And get the courage to fight for humanity in the sense of finding my brother again.
Your family split up, like you said here, and as you revert back into something I would say that a lot of people don't have anymore because everyone's looking at their phones or on their iPads or binging Netflix.
Instinct.
Instinct. You're not really, even on the subway, which is, in New York City, can be dangerous at times, depending where you are. You're not paying attention to your surroundings anymore. You're looking exactly at your handheld device, and the guy next to you could be putting a gun right to your head, and you have no idea because you're on Twitter. So you're reverting back here. Power is gone. All this stuff is happening. I don't know how to live off the land. I don't know any survival skills, and you're picking it up as you go along here. One of the things I found really interesting is, this isn't giving anything away, there's a scene where your father hands you a gun. And he's showing you, he's like, this is the safety, this is how you hold it when you're doing everything. So you go at one point from this handgun that you didn't want that your father gave you to, as the movie goes around, you're carrying an assault rifle, and taking out what you can in order to survive. Do you have any familiarity with guns? Like, did they get you training? Did you have an interest or something like that?
I mean, I did kick ass when I was 11 years old. So I learned to dismantle a gun, put a gun back together, clean it. I learned all about different calibers of rifles and handguns and assault rifles and, semi-automatics and fully automatics. And I know too much about guns and fighting and knives and a lot of things.
Have you gone shooting for real?
Yeah.
You have?
Yeah, I actually go pretty regularly to the gun range and just keep my shot up. Did
you have an interest in that before? Saying going back to Kick-Ass, did you have an interest before that, or did it build from the roles that you were a part of?
I shot my first revolver when I was probably about 10 years old.
Wow.
Like the first time I shot a gun.
Yeah.
And then during Kick-Ass is when I really got into it because the stunt guys and the armorers and all that stuff. And then as I started growing up and I did more action movies and stuff, I just kind of enjoyed it. And I found it kind of interesting. As long as you respect it and you don't take it for granted,
right.
and you don't kind of take advantage of it, and you treat it like the deathly weapon that it is, you can, become a little bit of a marksman and, figure out what type of gun is for you, etc.
I'm not a gun guy. I've never shot anything, so that's I'm curious about that when people do decide to pick it up. And obviously there's a big difference between movie guns and shooting in real life.
Yes.
For what you're doing on the movie set, does it have the same kind of kick, same kind of feel?
No, it's a half load. It's a blank. So there's technically,
you're not getting the push on it.
Nothing's popping out of the barrel. So, you don't have the amount of gunpowder that it takes to propel a bullet out of the barrel. You have like maybe even a third of a load, and all it does is just make a big popping noise and it pops out.
Right.
But nothing actually really happens. So you don't feel much kick at all.
There's a scene in the movie, again, doesn't give away anything, but you wake up in a house and someone's taking care of you because something happened to you. And as you're exploring the house, you're in a room, and it just seemed weird that this was in the room the way it was positioned. But at one point, there's a huge poster for the movie Big Fish right behind you. What's the tie-in?
I actually asked that too.
Because I love that movie, and a lot of people haven't seen it.
It's an amazing movie. I think it's one of Burton's best movies for sure. I think it's super special. But I actually asked that because I was like, what?
Because it's almost like product placement because it's
so
right there.
Yeah. I was so confused when I saw it in that room. I was like, why is this random farm kid interested in Big Fish? But it actually happened that they had like some stupid poster up, and the director, Jay Blakeson, was kind of not happy with the poster that they had up, and so he had them print a new one, and he was like, "Do Big Fish."
Okay, so
I guess it's just
it was just a set choice. Nobody worked on that movie that was working on this movie, or no other tie-in.
Maybe there might be a deeper tie-in that I wasn't told, but that's kind of what I gathered from it because I asked him and I was like, "That's very strange."
All right, because it did take me out from the story a little bit because you don't know if it's going to be a tense scene or not. You're walking around and you're a little suspicious for your safety and where am I? What's going on? And then out of nowhere, your eye draws to the center of the room and you see the Big Fish movie poster. I'm like, what am I missing?
You see Ewan McGregor's face in your head and you're like, what?
Like maybe you cross paths with them in the woods while you're running this way, he's going that way to try to find his dad.
Who knows?
Some kind of tie in there. So how did you you could definitely see some of the elements from what you picked up from the Kick-Ass franchise being used in this movie as far as your fighting technique and stunts that you were doing and what have you. How does this movie differ from other projects that you've worked on as far as maybe your acting ability or your stunts or things like that?
Well, I think this is definitely one of my larger projects in the sense that it has a very large spectrum. I mean, I was dealing with a lot of different exterior things, like aliens and CGI,
right,
and dealing with explosions and things I haven't really had to deal with. Like I've done stunts, but there was definitely a larger scale of that. So physically, it was in a different way demanding. It was also very interesting for me because I do have so much knowledge of fighting and kind of I know where my fists are, I know where my hands are, I know what I'm doing, I know where my body is placed. So, playing a character that doesn't know any of those things, I'm playing a character that's never held a gun before, never shot a gun before, doesn't know where the safety is really, is still fumbling, does not have the courage to shoot a gun. I was constantly being reminded by the director that, you don't know how to hold the assault rifle. Stop holding it like an army girl.
Right.
Like stop it. You don't know what you're doing. So it was kind of interesting to retrain my brain to be more spastic than I actually am. So we had to constantly film running scenes of me fake falling. Because
okay. You saying that, let me ask you then, there's a scene where you're injured, okay? And you decided I can't sit around here, I have to go find my brother, and you get up. And the injury that you sustained is not one that you can just kind of walk off or even force off by will. Your body at that particular point of injury just can't
do anything.
Function. Yeah. And the way you got up and fell to the ground, did they have to show you how to be injured for that? Because the way you were getting up, it's like your instinct is to kind of catch yourself and kind of walk when you're not supposed to be able to do that.
Yeah. Well, really what it is, I mean, that kind of falls into the acting part of it where it's you imagine what it would feel like to be hurt in a certain way and how you are if you just have a simple sprain,
right?
For instance, and how you want to try and lean on it. They're like, oh God, I forget that, it happens. And you just kind of get wobbly. So really, that just falls into the to the acting part of it, of just trying to put myself in the position of feeling my leg really being hurt in that certain way. And I do know, because of my stunts, how to fall the right way.
Okay.
From getting
they actually have
fake
courses
shot
to show you how
in
to
like
do
a
that.
shoulder or something, or like getting hit. You know how to fall.
Right.
You just know, if you do a lot of stunts, you just know how to take a fake hit. So I am pretty good at doing pratfalls and stuff, like making fake hits happen pretty realistically from stunt work.
I was looking on your Instagram, and I have to ask you this. You were born in Georgia, but moved to New York City a few years later.
Yeah.
Where did you become an Islanders fan?
Very random. So I didn't get into hockey until about a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago, right in our last, the Kings' last Stanley Cup winning, which was 13, 14 season. So
around there.
So 2 years ago, pretty much. And the Kings kind of introduced me into hockey. I'm, a West Coast girl predominantly. I grew up in LA from the time I was 8 years old on.
Right.
Not big hockey world, except for like the Ducks. And
right.
I lived in LA, and the Kings were nothing until a few years ago. And I just fell in love with hockey, like deeply, a deep passion with hockey.
So you just kind of fell into it?
I just fell into it for no reason. And then I started watching so much hockey. Like, I just watched random games. I would watch Devils games. I would watch, Jets games. I would watch random games that weren't even exciting. And then I just fell into watching Islanders games. And I loved the way they moved on the ice. I mean, I loved Tavares. I loved Clutterbuck. I loved the players, I guess. And I was like, wow, I think I want to watch those games more than I watch the Kings games. And then I went to their last 3 games at the barn in Nassau County, and I was
before
obsessed.
They moved to Brooklyn,
yeah, and it was during the playoffs, and I was like, oh my god, this is my team. Like, I feel so at home with this team. I don't know why.
Do a lot of people who are hockey fans that find out that you're an Islanders fan go, why the Islanders?
Yes,
yeah,
every single time they go, why not the Rangers? I'm like, because I don't care about McDonough. I don't care.
You're so passionate about who you don't like.
I am so passionate about hockey. It's an issue. Like, I will literally sit there in my hockey jersey at home, alone.
Right.
My whole family doesn't like hockey, and it's me alone in my jersey, and I'm like, yes, let's go. Like, I'm like screaming at the screen. It's bad.
It's amazing what you fall into.
It's random.
Check out her Instagram. It's Chloe G Moretz on Instagram and Twitter. Another thing I saw a few months ago, you became good friends with Hillary Clinton.
Best friends.
Whether, whatever your political line is with her, meeting her is
very.
She's a very powerful figure, but I imagine her presence is very commanding.
You'd think it'd be like almost overpowering, but it's not. It is very commanding. She seems very strong, but she seems like your sweet mother or grandmother,
right?
Even like it's a very, very maternal spirit.
It wasn't intimidating?
No, like it was because of what I built her up to be in my mind,
right?
And how much I respect her as a woman, and just to see what she's done as a woman in a very masculine business. I think that's what one of the big differences between her first election and the election now is the fact that she's less so trying to be with the boys. She's more embracing the fact that she is a woman and she's a mother and she has this maternal aspect. And she's really come into her own, I think, personally with, Chelsea having a child and her being a real grandmother now. I think she really is embracing the fact that she is a woman in the sense that she's not having to compete by trying to be like the men.
Right. So, I mean, again, it doesn't matter where one's political line is drawn, but if you met a president, even a president that you didn't even vote for, you'd still be like, oh my God, that is the president, or that is somebody who ran for president.
Still a huge deal.
Well, you're very active. You're a big champion of I guess, I'll say pro-woman, feminist rights, things like that, right? You also posted something about the Miss Universe, which got a lot of attention. And
Did.
It's weird because those pageant things, no matter if it was Miss Universe or Miss America or whatever, it was always the same run-of-the-mill pageant that they've been doing since the beginning of time. And
It's slightly
And you were
antiquated.
pointing out the questions are dumb. You're still judging people on whether they look good in a swimsuit.
Yeah.
And ultimately, that's what really wins the competition. No matter their talent, their political views, or their education, whatever. That last thing is the bathing suit competition, and that's what usually wins them before they do the formal gown and stuff like that. But for someone of your age to be that vocal about it, I don't think a lot of I don't want to say you're a kid, but I want to say a lot of young people care about those things.
No.
They just look at it as it being ridiculous.
Yeah.
Is that why you favorited the Amy Schumer thing too? Her pageant skit?
Yeah,
exactly. So on the nose, right?
It's so on the nose. It's so specific. I mean, it's just, I enjoy when people in my industry, especially women and young women and people like Amy Schumer too, is that if you have the ability to speak up and you have the ability for people younger than you or even older than you to look at what you're saying and just hear it, whether you respect it or not,
right,
just to see it in front of their face. It's nice if you have that platform to use it for the betterment.
And you're doing that.
And that's the way I look at it. It's like, yeah, I might not be right about everything I say, but at least I have a point of view.
And that's how you feel.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's how I feel. And I was I felt very passionate about what I was saying. I'm a very passionate person when it comes to my points and stances and different things. It's just part of who I am. And, that's how I felt in that moment as I was watching it. And I just watched everything unfold. And I just sat there being like, I can't sit here and have young women look at this and go, I will never be that because my body doesn't look like that in a bikini. And I'll never be that because I can't look like that. So therefore, I'm never going to get a crown. Like, that's not what it should be about. It doesn't matter what you look like. I mean, it should go to the most educated, smart, politically driven, philanthropically driven young woman on that stage.
Well, if you want to check out everything she did, it's up on her Twitter, and various other news sources picked it up. I was amazed it got as much attention as it did.
It definitely,
Most people were just happy that Trump wasn't running the thing anymore, based on Perez Hilton's comments. But and then Steve Harvey took all the attention away by screwing up the announcing of the winner. But it got a lot of attention, and you are a woman of your conviction, and you're 18, so you get to vote in this election. So I think we know who you're leaning for, based on everything else. But definitely go out and check out the movie, The Fifth Wave, which opens January 22nd. If you're a sci-fi fan, if you're just a fan of human interest stories, check it out. It's definitely a movie worth seeing. And you've had so much success with, like we said, with the modeling, with the acting, and I wish you continued success with that. But I think you hit your peak by the fact that you have your own action figure.
I agree with that. That's pretty crazy.
This is where it all comes down to.
I'll never be able to top that.
No, because if I ever get my own action figure, I'm buying a crate of it, and I'm sending it to everyone in my family for Christmas.
Yes.
This is what you're getting from me.
It's pretty crazy.
How awesome is that?
It's rad.
Go out and get her Hit Girl figure from Kick-Ass
Do it, guys.
while you do that.
Kick-Ass
and then go
1
see the
and
movie. Chloe, thank you so much for coming on the show. I'd love to see you next time around. I know you got Little Mermaid in the works.
Yep.
So that'll be interesting to see a live action version of that. So if you're in town, please come by.
I will.
All right. Take care.